Hello, welcome back. My name is Fernanda. What's your name? I am a teacher. What do you do? When you give someone your personal information, you have to use the present simple, the topic for today. So the simple present is one of the first verb tenses we learn in English. And why is that? Because we use it to give our personal information. So every time you start learning English, you have to share your information with your friends, with your colleagues. We use the present simple tense. So the present simple is stuck to our minds, and many times we can't move on. We can't use other verb tenses because we keep using present simple for everything we have to say. So now you're going to see the situations, the specific situations you are supposed to use this verb tense. Okay? Come with me to the examples. My name is Fernanda. I'm a teacher. This is my personal information, as we already said. Now, I go to the gym on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Here, I'm talking about my routine. So, when you talk about your routine in English, you also use the present simple. I like to exercise. I like to keep in shape. So, I go to the gym every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. On Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So, this is my routine. What's your routine? Leave a comment. Tell me what's your routine like, okay? Something else that we are supposed to use present simple with is another situation is when you have things in general. A fact that's true in general. You generalize something, you make a generalization, okay? For example, modern cars are faster. So in the past, the cars were not so fast about velocity. They're not so fast as they are today. So modern cars are faster than the old cars, okay? In this case, we are saying something in general. Maybe my car is not so fast and not as fast as a Ferrari, for example. But in general, modern cars are faster, all right? One more thing is facts. You're supposed to use the present simple when you are talking about a fact. For example, what do we have here? The earth goes round the sun. This is a fact. This is a fact that science has proven. The earth goes around the sun. Do you understand? Goes round. It's like circulate, okay? So the earth circulates the sun. So we have the day and the night, the day and the night. This is a fact. If you have a fact, you are supposed to use the present simple also, okay? Here we have 4 situations, and we also have one situation we didn't talk about, we will not talk about in this video. It's the use of present simple for the future. It's another possibility also, but we're not going to talk about this today. We're going to talk about this some videos ahead, so keep connected to us and you will see how to use the present simple for the future. All right? Now we are going to see structurally how the present simple is formed. Okay, here we have 2 more examples, and now we are going to discuss the structure of the present simple. In the first example, I have the sentence, I am a teacher. I am a teacher. Do you remember what is the classification of the sentence? Personal information, right? So, I am a teacher. It's a sentence that is affirmative. I am a teacher. The verb is affirmative. So, what is my verb here? Am. Am is the verb in my sentence. So, to make a negative sentence in the present simple using the verb to be, remember the verb to be? I am, you are, he is, she is, it is, we are, you are, they are. This is the verb to be. The verb to be is a special verb. It's not necessary to use many other tools to create a sentence using it. For example, if you want to put the sentence in the negative form, we just say, I am not a teacher. I am not a teacher. And here I have my negative sentence. So any sentence you have in the present simple using the verb to be, all you have to do is add not after the verb to be. Now, what about questions? How do I make a question using the verb to be? I simply invert the positions. I am a teacher. Imagine I lost my memory. I have a memory problem. I don't remember my job. I don't remember my profession. So I say, am I a teacher? Am I a teacher? I just have to invert the position. But remember the last verb we posted here, talking to you about the subjects that we have in a sentence. It's not always so simple to identify the subject as it is when you have a subject pronoun. So be careful when you locate the subject in your sentence, all right? Now a second example that I have here, let's separate the two examples. Here, I love music. So imagine that I'm not in a bad mood and I haven't been in a bad mood for quite some time, and I decided that I don't love music anymore. That's how I say it. I don't love music. This is the negative form. I don't love music. Don't is do plus not. This is what don't means, structurally speaking. It's the auxiliary verb that we use in negative and interrogative sentences in English. Remember, we don't use the auxiliary verb in affirmative sentences, okay? So, if I use it in negative sentences and interrogative sentences only, how do I make a question from the sentence, I love music? I lost my memory again. I don't know what I like, what I don't like. So, my question is, do I love music? So, what we have to do here is take the auxiliary verb and put the auxiliary verb in front of the subject, before the subject in a sentence. So, do I love music? I don't know if I love music or not. Can you help me? How about you? Do you love music? Now, we are going to see all the sentences again, but when you have a different subject, when you have he, she, it as the subject of a sentence, okay? Okay, so now we have an example with she. Every time you have he, she, or it as the subject in your sentence, you have to change the verb just a little bit. For example, the other example, I love music. Now we have she loves music. So in the present simple, every time we have he, she, it as the subject, we add the s to the verb. She loves music. This is for affirmative sentences. And remember that the verb to be has a different form for each subject. You just keep it the way it is. You don't have to add another verb, another s to verb to be. But now we have negative and interrogative. For the negative sentences, what do we need to add? Remember, the auxiliary verb. So now, here is how my sentence will look. She do, right? No, doesn't love music. Remember that doesn't is does plus not. That's what doesn't mean. So we have does not, she doesn't love music. Look at the verb love. It doesn't have the S anymore because the S is right here. She doesn't love music. She does not love music. So you have to keep in mind that the auxiliary verb, it works as an auxiliary in a sentence. So if you need a negative structure, you add the negative structure to the auxiliary verb. If you need an S for the third person, he, she, it, you put the S in the auxiliary verb, okay? And the main verb keeps in the basic form, all right? Now let's make a question. You probably already know how to make a question after all this. So, does she love music? I don't know. Does she love music? It's very simple. You just add the S to the auxiliary verb before the subject. Does she love music? And these are the structures that you are supposed to use when you're using this verb tense, the present simple. Remember, verb to be, no auxiliary verb. Alright? All the other verbs you have to use do and don't or do not for the persons I, you, we, they, and for he, she, it, does, doesn't, does not. Alright? Now, let's talk about how we add the S to the verbs because some verbs have specific details we are going to discuss. Alright, so here we have how we're supposed to add the S to the end of the verbs for the he, she, it case. Every time you have a verb that ends in S, double S, SH, CH, X, and O, you're supposed to add ES, not only S. Some examples. Pass, I pass, she passes. I wash, he washes. I go, it goes. This is one of the cases. Now let's separate them. And here's the second case. If you have a verb that ends in a consonant plus Y, what are the consonants? B, C, D, F, G, H, and so on. Plus Y, you have to remove the Y and then you add I, E, S to the end of the verb. For example, cry, I cry, she cries, like this. But if the verb ends in Y and before the Y you don't have a consonant but a vowel, for example, play, you have to keep it the way it is and just add the S. Plays, I play, he plays, she plays, it plays. Okay? So this is how you form the verbs with the S in the third person present simple. Now let's go to our material and see what the author tells us about this verb tense. Alright, so here we have Unit 2, which is page 4, present simple, I do. Section A, study this example situation. Alex is a bus driver, but now he is in bed asleep. He is not driving a bus, he is asleep. But he drives a bus because he is a bus driver. So here we have some personal information about Alex. He is a bus driver. He drives a bus. Drive or drives, work, works, do, does, etc. is the present simple. So remember, I, we, you, they drive, work, do, but he, she, it drives, works, does, and etc. Section B. Let's read together. We use the present simple to talk about things in general. We use it to say that something happens all the time or repeatedly, or that something is true in general. So here we have routine, fact, and information in general. For example, let's read together. Nurses look after patients in hospitals. What's look after? Look after is to take care, okay? So this is something that's true in general. What do nurses do? They look after patients in hospitals. Example 2. Read it with me. I usually go away at weekends. Go away means travel. I usually travel at weekends. So this is something that's a part of my routine. I usually travel. I usually go away at weekends. The third example, the earth goes round the sun. So the earth circulates the sun. Remember the example from the board? This is a fact. This is science has proven us that the earth goes around the sun. So fact. The cafe opens at 7:30 in the morning. It's the routine. Every morning the cafe opens at 7:30. So here we have routine. Remember, I work, but he works. They teach, but my sister teaches. So see, my sister teacher teaches. You don't always have she, he, it, the specific subject pronoun. Sometimes you have a word, you identify this word or this expression as being he, she, or it. Now let's move to section C. The auxiliary verbs. We use do, does to make questions and negative sentences. We say, do, I, you, they work, drive, do. Does he, she, it work, drive, do? So see, the S is in the auxiliary verb. The main verb is in the basic form. I, we, you, they don't work, drive, do. He, she, it doesn't work, drive, do. Once again, the S is in the auxiliary verb, not on the basic verb. Let's read the examples with me. I come from Canada. Where do you come from? I don't go away very often. Do you remember? I don't travel very often. I don't go away very often. What does this word mean? Not what means this word. You don't say like that. What means this word? The only verb that doesn't need the auxiliary verb is verb to be. Remember that, okay? So mean is just another verb and you must use the auxiliary verb with it. Rice doesn't grow in cold climates. So rice is the same as it. So it doesn't grow in cold climates, okay? In the following examples, do is also the main verb. Do you do, doesn't do, etc. So here we have an example of when you use a verb twice in a sentence, but with different functions. The first time we use the verb to be is when it is the auxiliary verb, and the second time is as the main verb to do. For example, read it with me, please. What do you do? I work in a shop. What do you do is the question we use when you want to know what's the person's profession, the person's occupation. So, Fernanda, what do you do? I am a teacher. All right? And you, what do you do? Leave a comment. Tell me what's your profession. He's always so lazy. He doesn't do anything to help. Do you understand lazy? It's a person that seems not to have energy to do things, the person that doesn't want to do anything, just wants to be sitting or laying down, watching TV. This is a lazy person. A person that's lazy is a person that doesn't do anything to help. All right? Now we have section D. We use the present simple to say how often we do things. For example, let's read together. I get up at 8 o'clock every morning. How often do you go to the dentist? How often is a question word we use to ask about frequency. So it means what is the frequency of times you go to the dentist, okay? Julie doesn't drink tea very often, or Julie doesn't drink tea very frequently. Do you know what's tea? Tea is a hot drink, usually a hot drink that we make with our herbs and water. Some people like to use sugar also, and British people drink it a lot. Robert usually goes away 2 or 3 times a year. So go away, remember, is to travel. So Robert usually goes away, Robert usually travels 2 or 3 times a year. Section E. I promise I apologize. Sometimes we do things by saying something. For example, when you promise to do something, you can say, I promise. When you suggest something, you can say, I suggest. These verbs, what's the idea here? The idea is that these actions, they are not a physical movement actions. Um, Imagine yourself driving. You can picture the image in your head of a person holding the wheel and driving along the city. But when you say, imagine yourself making a promise, can you imagine that? Maybe you imagine yourself saying that you can make a promise, that you make a promise. But you cannot imagine yourself making the promise because it's an action that's abstract. When you have this kind of actions, you do not use the continuous form. You're supposed to use the present simple. For example, let's read together. I promise I won't be late. Not I'm promising. We don't say it like that, okay? What do you suggest I do? I suggest that you study English, okay? So, in these cases, no continuous form, always the present simple. In the same way, we say, I apologize, I advise, I insist, I agree, I refuse. I apologize means I say I'm sorry. I advise means I give you counsel about something. I insist means that I continue saying the same thing again and again because I think you should follow my advice. I agree is I have the same opinion as you do. And I refuse is the same as I say no. Phew, that's a lot of information. I know that, but study hard. If you have any questions, leave a comment and I'll be glad to answer to your questions and keep on studying. I know it's a lot, but it's very important because it's a very important verb tense and we are going to learn together. Anything I can do to help you, just tell me and I'll be there for you, okay? And hope to see you again in our next video. Bye bye.